Hello everybody, welcome to CFC Fan TV. Now, today is a very special day because it marks 20 years since our 1997 FA Cup victory against Middlesbrough. Rory?
Yeah, what a day it was. I think it's fair to say that the club never looked back from that day. Up until that point, we've been a very glamorous team at times. You know, through the 70s we were a very exciting team. A nice array of silverware, you know, 2 different trophies, one in Europe, also an FA Cup. And prior to that, in the 50s, obviously we won the league. But there was a 25-year period where we didn't win any trophies, and that was not good enough. 20 years ago today, that all changed.
So it felt like our cup run was basically over. We were 2-0 down to Liverpool at home, and then it all changed.
That's right, it was over before it even begun, wasn't it? We played Liverpool at home, we were 2-0 down, I was at the game, and I think it's fair to say this is one of my, if I were to list my top 10 favourite moments as a Chelsea fan, this has to be in there. We were 2-0 down. Liverpool were a very exciting team at the time. You know, Stan Collymore, Robbie Fowler, Steve McManaman, lots of goals in the team, a serious threat. And, you know, they were off the back of a serious pedigree. You know, this isn't that long after they were winning trophy after trophy. So to play them at Stamford Bridge in the 3rd round wasn't ideal. To go 2-0 down at half-time is certainly not ideal. We then made a substitution. Ruud Gullit brought on Mark Hughes, and the game completely changed. From 2-0 down, Mark Hughes led the front line. He scored a goal, Gianfranco Zola also scored, and Gianluca Vialli got 2. And we turned it round. The bridge was vibrant, you know, there was no shed end at the time, it was during redevelopment. And to do that, what happened that day was a glimmer. And I think that from that moment on, people started to think that we could win the cup. You know, it was only 3 years before that we got to the final. We played Manchester United in 1994, and we lost 4-0, but it could have been so different. You know, it was 0-0 at half-time. Gavin Peacock had hit the bar, and, you know, you started to think, will we ever win a trophy again? Now we're on the road to Wembley, and we've overturned a 2-0 deficit to Liverpool. People started to dream.
So we were through to the next round, on to Leicester City, and Erling Johnson became, well,
unlikely,
hero.
A hero for sure. You know, he could have well been a hero before that moment, but he became an unlikely hero that day, and it's something that still really does wrangle with Leicester fans. Leicester would see Chelsea as their biggest rival in the Premier League. I think that's fair to say. If you know any Leicester fans, double check it. But all of their immediate rivals, their geographical rivals, aren't in the Premier League. So I think they would look at Chelsea as being the main source of their antipathy. Chelsea and Leicester aren't mates. There's a huge history of hatred between the two. And if they were going for the league against anyone other than Tottenham last year, we certainly wouldn't have been supporting them. Different when Tottenham were concerned. But we played them. I think we drew 2 away. Brought them back to Stamford Bridge, and the game was tight. We were struggling, it was 0-0, it was a bitty affair, nobody really taking control of the game, until Erling Johnson stepped up and did something, I'm going to be honest with you, something fantastic. He did the most ridiculous dive in the Leicester box that you've ever seen. I mean, you know, there was completely no contact. He's gone down, Chelsea have won a penalty, Frank Leboeuf has converted it, and bang, Leicester out of the cup. We're on to the next round to face.
So now we're in the semi-final, we're at Highbury, and one of the best goals you'll ever see is scored.
It really is. You know, we were playing Wimbledon, we were the better team, we knew we were the better team, but we hadn't won a trophy for such a long time that you just start to wonder whether it will ever happen for us again. I think people really did start to think it could happen when the masterful and brilliant Gianfranco Zola scored one of the best goals I've ever seen. I tried to replicate this goal in my school playground time after time after time. I must have tried 1,000 times, never got near it. The ball was played into him, he's in the D, he's made a diagonal run across it.
I remember this one.
Do you remember? The ball was played into him by Di Matteo, he kind of flicked it behind him.
I don't think you see something like that nowadays, do you really? When's the last time?
I mean, it was certainly, you know, there's been some fantastic football players who can score wonderful goals. I mean, I think certainly a player like Thierry Henry, Dennis Bergkamp, they can score this kind of goal, but Gianfranco Zola for us was in a league of his own. I think he's kind of touched it back. Chris Perry has gone to, you know, get himself a hot dog. He really has been sent out of the stadium, and he's taken one more touch before pinging it in past Neil Sullivan, who went on to play for Chelsea actually. We're in the semi-final. We've beaten Wimbledon 3-0 at Highbury. I was in the North Bank that day. I was young. I can remember what I was wearing. I was wearing the yellow kit, cause emblazoned across the front, and you know, we're going to Wembley.
Now this is it. We're at the final and we get our silverware.
Yeah, well this is, absolutely, this is the day that I think changed the complexion of Chelsea Football Club forever. Everything that we are so grateful for today happens because of what happened 20 years ago to this very day. We were playing Middlesbrough. They were a very good Middlesbrough team. You know, some very, very good players there. You had people like Janino and, you know, Fabrizio Ravanelli was there. They were a good side. I mean, I know they were relegated, but you've got to remember they got to 2 cup finals that year. They lost both. Worst ever season?
It's not a good season, is it?
No, 2 cup finals and a relegation. 2 cup final defeats and a relegation. But I think the fact that they were in 2 cup finals proves that they knew how to win games.
Yeah.
And anything could happen, you know. They were, like I say, they were very gifted. Until, suddenly...
42 seconds later...
Bang! Chelsea 1-0 up against Middlesbrough, and we knew. At that moment, honestly, the joy around me, some bloke who I wasn't even at the game with had picked me up and launched me into the air. It was sheer jubilation. I mean, look, it was not dissimilar. The celebrations at West Brom the other night were emphatic and really, really lively and bonkers. But this did feel like something else. There were 30,000 raucous Chelsea fans at the old Wembley with the Twin Towers going insane. Chelsea hadn't won a trophy for 25 years, and all of a sudden we were going to win one. That meant that we were going to be in Europe next year, and the club really never looked back. Roberto Di Matteo scored. He broke a record that day. I think the record was then broken by Louis Saha against us. But we won a trophy, and you know, it did leave a lot of people speechless, similar to what it's done to me there.
I think it's sort of from that moment on we became a winning club again. And
yeah, we were a force. Chelsea at that period, and you know, at times throughout the 70s, were a very stylish club, a very, very exciting place to be. You know, the kings of the King's Road, Raquel Welch, lots of glamour, lots of good-looking football players. But we had a 25-year period where we didn't win anything, and that's not acceptable. At this moment, 20 years ago, to this very day, that all changed. Eddie Newton was on the score sheet as well, and it's, you know, it just shows you what a special place it is, because Roberto Di Matteo and Eddie Newton, the 2 goal scorers that day, then came back to Chelsea to become a management duo, to lead us to Munich to win the European Cup. And from this day, well, I mean, you know what happened, but the following year we went to Stockholm, beat Stuttgart, Gianfranco Zola scored a goal. A couple of years later, again Roberto Di Matteo in the 2000 Cup final against Aston Villa, scored again, we won another trophy, and you know, it's just been building and building ever since. And it was from that day that we kind of knew that what happened in Munich are directly linked, because the club were going places, and it was just an incredible moment. And this day should be down in history. I think it should be a national holiday in England, certainly in the borough of Kensington and Chelsea, because it was truly special.
I'll try and make that happen.
You really should.
Right, Rory's done talking. He's clearly overwhelmed by all the joy that happened that day. Listen, guys, tell us what your favourite FA Cup moments are. Rory's definitely given you a handful of his. And yeah, we'll see you soon.
I'll start. Can I kick it off?
Oh.
My favourite FA Cup final, not FA Cup final moment, my favourite ever FA Cup moment, I'm going to go with the 1997 Liverpool-Chelsea game, the one that I was just talking about. I'm going to put that as a comment when this goes live. Yeah. That's mine. Let me know yours.
Go on, you Blues.